Welcome students, I am Tanay and this is video lecture number 3 of Vyas Mahabharata. In this video lecture, I will explain the case of Draupadi to you all. Case of Draupadi is a section that contains 3 subsections. I will explain these 3 subsections one by one. First subsection is humiliation of Draupadi. Second subsection is the legal point and Draupadi's question. Third subsection is the king's offering of the 3 boons to Draupadi. I will explain these 3 subsections, but before I do so, I want you all to know one thing. I have received a few complaints. The complaints are that in the previous 2 lecture videos, I have not explained the term dharma properly. So before I begin explaining the case of Draupadi, I think that I should explain dharma for one more and one last time so that you all can understand what the term exactly stands for. From the very beginning, dharma. What is dharma? Some people say that it's religion. A few say, such as people like J.A.B. Van Buitenen, he says that the closest English word for dharma is law. These days, the politicians say that religion is the closest English word for dharma. So I will cut through all chaos and I will explain quickly what is dharma. Dharma, according to once again J.A.B. Van Buitenen, is law to some extent. Now, why I have mentioned to some extent in the end of the line? Let's understand that. To Indian readers, the term is incomplete. The term dharma is incomplete to Indian readers because the boundary of this particular term contains within it ideas of truth, justice, morality, righteousness, code of conduct, obligation, and duty. So, dharma is basically a combination and amalgamation of these 4-5 ideas. And that's quite legitimate and reasonable because if you go and study law, you will realize that in India, most of the laws that are functional right now have been formulated by keeping the ideas of truth, justice, morality, righteousness, code of conduct, obligation, and duty in mind. Okay, so dharma is indeed law, but a law formulated by keeping the ideas of truth, justice, morality, righteousness, code of conduct, obligation, and duty in mind. Okay. Dharma is defined by a person's position in society. This is very important and must be understood properly. So, a king, in his eyes, the definition of dharma is totally different. For a peasant, for a farmer, the definition of dharma would be totally different. Because the duties that a farmer is supposed to perform will be totally different from the set of duties a king is supposed to perform. So, for a king, dharma will be slightly different. And for a peasant, or for a farmer, for a normal citizen, for a layman, it would be totally different. That's dharma. Now let's come back to the case of Draupadi. Once again, I will repeat quickly the three subsections. First is humiliation of Draupadi, second is the legal point and Draupadi's question, third is king's offering of the three boons to Draupadi. So the first, um, okay, let's first understand the case of Draupadi, the title itself of this section. Draupadi is brought to the assembly full of men. When Yudhishthira lost Draupadi in the dice game, Draupadi was summoned in that court which was filled with males only and where females would not go frequently. So Draupadi is called to a courtroom that predominantly belonged to males only. But before coming to the assembly or the court, she questions the judgment of her husband Yudhishthir. She asks, what son of a king would hazard his wife? Then she asks, who did Yudhishthir lose first, himself or Draupadi? This is a very this is a very interesting incident. A servant goes to Draupadi and informs her that Yudhishthir has lost her in the dice game. And this information disturbs Draupadi totally. Draupadi is quite shocked. She is taken aback. She does not know what to say, how to respond to this shocking message. So, and then the servant also informs Draupadi that she has been summoned immediately in the courtroom. Draupadi is not even properly dressed um, at this time, so she objects and then she asks the servant to go and question Yudhishthir that whom did Yudhishthir lose first, himself or Draupadi? So we can understand one thing here, that Draupadi doesn't even hold the status of a female or of a human being. She is treated as an object. Yudhishthir possesses Draupadi. Yudhishthir loses her in the dice game. See, she is just like any other commodity or any other object that Yudhishthir possesses. This is quite saddening. So this is the case of Draupadi. Despite being the queen of Indraprasth, despite being uh, what we call the first lady of Indraprasth, she she has been put on stake by her very own husband because the husband himself or the males of that time would treat females as objects. That's the case of Draupadi. Now, the first subsection, humiliation of Draupadi. Let's understand humiliation of Draupadi. When Draupadi refuses to go to the courtroom, Duryodhana orders Dushashan to go and drag Draupadi to the courtroom. So Dushashan follows the order of his brother. He goes to the room or the chamber of Draupadi and drags her to the court and just try to visualize this entire incident. It is not difficult to understand or to decipher that the gestures or the words or the type of body language that Duryodhan, Dushashan and Karna exhibit here This shows that they do not respect Draupadi at all. Okay. The foul language of Dushashan and Karna and the lewd gestures of Duryodhana reflect their ill will for Draupadi. This is a very sad incident, and this is very unfortunate also. So Draupadi tries to first convince Dushashan. When she realizes that convincing Dushashan is not an easy task, she tries to bring up a fact. Now pay attention. She says, rather informs everyone in the court that she has been going through the phase of menstruation. To avoid humiliation, she mentions this fact, which is true. It's not a made up fact. Okay, it's not something that Draupadi made up immediately to avoid the humiliation. So she informs everyone that she is going through the phase of menstruation. It's that particular period of the year through which Draupadi is going, but no one pays any attention to her words. Now try to understand this from the narrator's perspective. This incident has been mentioned here to accentuate the suffering of Draupadi that she has been subjected to. So, and one more important thing, that during that time, a woman could either be a mother or an object for entertainment and extracting pleasure. Okay, the entire concept of Jag Janani, the only use of a female was to add one generation to the existing generation. Okay, to add one page to the pedigree. That's all. Females were used to uh, obtain kids and children. Sorry. So that's it. That's the humiliation of Draupadi. Now let's talk about the second point, legal point, and Draupadi's question. So we have to understand here that does Yudhishthira have any moral or legal right to stake Draupadi? That's the legal point and also Draupadi's question. So Draupadi asks Yudhishthira that, hey Yudhishthira, do you have any moral or legal right to stake me? So first, Dushashan gives a reply. He says that Dharmaraj or Yudhishthir has done what is lawful. He has not broken any law. So then Bhishma too, although reluctantly, but ends up supporting Dushashan. He too says that, females are possessed by males, so they are basically the possession of males. So if a king wants to put her wife or daughter, especially wife here, on stake, he is free to do so. So this question of Draupadi or the legal point, so a perfect answer to this particular question does not exist. Okay, it did not exist back then. Still, it's quite difficult to find an answer to this particular question. However, today in this day-to-day liberal becoming society, it's now not difficult to understand that one must not treat females as mere objects or an instrument to receive pleasure or just to get offsprings from her. So that's the legal point and Draupadi's question. Now let's move to the final subsection, which is the king's offering of the three boons. So, but before this, you have to understand that Duryodhan and Dushashan and Karna, they all first try to engage themselves in a debate with Draupadi and a few court members, but then they simply reject everything and they are like, no, disrobe her, okay? Um, just disrobe her, pull her dress, make her naked. So then Dushashan makes an attempt to disrobe Draupadi. However, some godly power works. It's debatable. Some godly power works. And as we all have seen in Mahabharata, and even in this particular chapter, it's clearly written that Lord Krishna, with the help of his magical abilities, he saves Draupadi from humiliation. Okay, he replaces her skirt one after another. So that's what happens. Now let's move to the final and last subsection, which is the king's offering of the three boons. When Draupadi's honor is saved, when she is rescued and she is saved from this particular attempt of disrobing her, she then stares everyone furiously. So by this time, Dhritarashtra too has realized that the deeds of his sons are not good. So he asks Draupadi to ask for three boons, three vardans. So I will just quickly inform you all of the three boons, because at this point of time, even Dhritarashtra is aware. He knows that his sons have done something unpardonable. So it's very important. So finally, the scene is made more dramatic by the horrible sound of jackals, donkeys, and grisly birds to accentuate the entire scene. These sounds have been added in this particular piece of literature. So Dhritarashtra, to settle the matter, gives three boons to Draupadi. So first, she asks for the freedom of Yudhishthira, and with the help of the second boon, she frees all her husbands. And the third boon, she refuses to take, saying that my husbands will find good things, king with their own good acts. So, third boon, Draupadi does not encash or does not capitalize. Uh, so, so if we understand, to conclude, I would say just one thing. So, it's a husband's duty to protect his wife throughout the life. But in this particular case, it's the wife, it's Draupadi, who ends up saving the lives and the honor of her husbands. So that's the irony of the entire incident. So that's it. I have explained once again Dharma, the case of Draupadi, three subsections that the case of Draupadi um, contains. See you all in the next lecture. Thank you.